In today's video, I'm going to analyze the 2025 US Open men's semifinals, and I'm also going to preview the finals. So let's get started with Djokovic versus Alcaraz. And prior to the match, my thought was that if Carlos Alcaraz can make this match physical, he's going to have a huge advantage against Djokovic, who struggles both against Alcaraz and Sinner when it comes to the physical aspect of tennis, especially in late stages of Grand Slam tournaments. But we're going to get to Novak Djokovic's struggles a little bit later in this video, so stay tuned. But early in this match, it was Carlos Alcaraz who was sharper. He got the break in the first game of the match, and Carlos has been serving exceptionally well. He held serve for the remainder of the first set and won it 6-4. And in the second set, just like we've seen many times, Djokovic turns it on and starts playing a lot better. He gets the break and is up 3-0. And it is in the game at 3-1 Djokovic, where Alcaraz broke back, where I thought the match became more physical. Carlos Alcaraz started playing with a bit more control in his shots and extended the rallies. And towards the end of that second set, Novak Djokovic started feeling it physically. Just like I've seen in other matches throughout these US Open, Novak Djokovic was struggling in between points, and it looked like he was out of breath, gassed. They got into a tiebreak. Carlos Alcaraz was the better player and won the second set 7-6. Now in the third, Novak Djokovic fell apart from a physical standpoint. There wasn't any injury, even though while watching the match, I thought there could be some kind of injury that Novak was dealing with, because at some portions of this third set, he stopped running certain balls down and started slapping shots just to get out of a rally. But based on Novak's comments in the post-match press conference, this was purely a physical issue. He was just simply gassed. This third set obviously wasn't competitive at all from Novak, and he lost it 6-2. So this brings up the question that a lot of people have been asking: what is the point of Novak playing if he has physical problems against Sinner and Alcaraz in semifinals of Grand Slam tournaments? So first and foremost, reaching 4 consecutive semifinals in Grand Slams at the age of 38 is an incredible record and will be remembered for a long time when Djokovic is retired. It is an incredible accomplishment. However, it is clear that Sinner and Alcaraz at this stage of Novak Djokovic's career are on another level physically. I do believe that if it wasn't for the physical aspect against Carlos Alcaraz, Novak Djokovic would still have some chances to get into matches and make them complicated. I think against Sinner, the situation is far more complex, and I don't believe that it's just physical. I also believe that it's mental as well, and it's to some degree tactical or technical, if you will, because Novak Djokovic has a hard time, just like pretty much everyone else, to handle the pace of the Sinner ball. But that's a topic for another video, because as Novak Djokovic said in the press conference, he plans to play next year, and he believes that he has a better chance to beat Sinner and Alcaraz in a best-of-3 match. He thinks that best of 5, after he had already won 5 matches, by the time he gets to a semi and has to come through either Sinner or Alcaraz, his tank is empty, which leaves him with very little chances to win the match. So again, what is the point of Novak Djokovic continuing to play if he doesn't believe that he can beat these guys? Well, what I think is happening with Novak is the following. As he said in the post-match press conference, he's going to play a full season in 2026. And we have to go back in time and remember that when Novak was competing against Nadal and Federer, the crowd was against him. Federer and Nadal are possibly the 2 most popular tennis players in the history of the game. However, in the last few years, the crowd has been more sympathetic to Novak, even in matches where he plays Sinner and Alcaraz, who are also very popular. And I simply believe that even though Novak Djokovic has doubts whether he can win his 25th Grand Slam title, he enjoys playing the Grand Slams because he's enjoying the experience of the crowd being supportive towards him. Even in this match against Carlos Alcaraz, when Novak Djokovic hit some spectacular shots. For example, his trademark two-handed backhand down the line where he slid into it with his left foot in the first set. The crowd went crazy. Or the third point of the second set tiebreak where Djokovic ran down a drop shot, lobbed Alcaraz, ended up winning the point. The crowd went crazy, and you saw the smile on Novak Djokovic's face. So you can't blame Novak for enjoying the crowd support at the Grand Slams and wanting to continue to play tennis at this level, even though the chances are not going to get better against Sinner and Alcaraz next year or the year after. They possibly might even get worse. Novak is enjoying himself out there. And on top of that, he is still the third best player in the world at the Grand Slam level. And he would be the third best player in the world if he focused more on those smaller tournaments as well. So it's just because Novak is putting all his focus on the Grand Slams. In fact, the last tournament outside of the Grand Slams that he played was Geneva. So Novak has played 3 consecutive Grand Slam tournaments without having played any other tournaments, and he's still making the semifinals. So Novak's focus is on the Grand Slams, but generally speaking, he is the third best player in the world. So I'm super excited that Novak wants to continue to play. A lot of people are writing that he should retire and that he might retire after the Australian Open. No, I believe what Novak says. He wants to continue to play, and why shouldn't he when there are only 2 guys that he has a hard time beating? So to me, it's going to be interesting to see whether these other guys outside of Sinner and Alcaraz can step up and can take out a Djokovic who's going to be 39 next year. He's going to be 40 the year after. Will they be able to finally take out Djokovic? Honestly, I have my doubts. I think Djokovic still plays tennis at an exceptionally high level. The second semifinal between Sinner and Auger Aliassime was a high-level match. This is some of the best tennis that I've seen from Auger Aliassime, especially in that second set. And when I look at the matches where Jannik Sinner struggles, it's generally against Alcaraz, of course, but it's also against some other players recently like Dimitrov or Shapovalov. And I do think that Auger Aliassime gave Jannik Sinner a big test. He wasn't anywhere near beating Sinner, but this was a tough match for Jannik. And I think it's all about breaking Jannik Sinner's rhythm and not allowing him to dominate you. And how can players do this? Well, if they have the versatility of Carlos Alcaraz, that's one way to break his rhythm. But also, if you play with a tremendous amount of power and also consistency, that's very difficult to pull off. But obviously, even the great Jannik Sinner will struggle against that game style. And Grigor Dimitrov proved that in Wimbledon. Denis Shapovalov proved that in the third round against Sinner. And Auger Aliassime proved this to be true in the second set, because it is here where he started serving incredibly well and also started playing very aggressive from the baseline. Now, Sinner won the first set 6-1, and Felix was a little bit shaky. And I do think that if players show up against Sinner and they don't find their top level, they're going to get blown off the court, and the score is going to be absolutely brutal. And this match certainly could have turned that way. However, Auger Aliassime started playing incredible tennis in the second set. His first serve percentage shot up to 75%, and he was going for it, hitting it very flat and hard. Now, Jannik Sinner, on the other hand, started missing a lot of first serves, and his first serve percentage dropped to 45% in the second set. When I analyze Jannik Sinner's statistics, I would never go as far as saying that Jannik Sinner has a weakness in his game. Why do I say that? Because Jannik Sinner is currently ranked number 1 in the world in serve stats. He's ranked number 1 in the world in return stats. And based on shot quality data, he has the best forehand and backhand in the world. So I cannot make the statement that Jannik Sinner has a serve problem or that he has a serve weakness, because based on the data, he is the guy on tour that's the most difficult to break, and he has overall the best serve statistics. However, one small detail of the Jannik Sinner serve that can cause him to have problems in matches is his first serve percentage. I made a video about this topic a couple of weeks ago. I recommend that you check it out. And Jannik Sinner's first serve percentage is usually around 60%. It did go up a little bit after the fourth round win against Bublik and the quarterfinal win against Musetti. However, in this match against Auger Aliassime, first serve percentage dropped. And this doesn't mean that opponents are going to start breaking Jannik Sinner right away. I've seen Jannik Sinner yesterday hold a service game comfortably without making a single first serve, because Jannik Sinner has an exceptional second serve. And of course, what makes him so difficult to break is what comes after the serve, which is an absolute destruction of the opponent from the back of the court. So if the opponent plays aggressive and doesn't allow Jannik to play his game, and also if Jannik Sinner is not getting a lot of first serves in, there is a small window for the opponent, and Auger Aliassime certainly capitalized on this opportunity and won that second set against Sinner 6-3. Now, there was some issue with Jannik Sinner's ab muscles, and he did go off the court for treatment, but in the post-match press conference, Jannik said that this wasn't a problem at all, and it didn't affect him for the rest of the match. Now, in the third set, Jannik Sinner played a lot better. He cleaned up his serve and got his percentages up, and he won it comfortably 6-3. In the fourth set, Auger Aliassime was playing with a lot of energy. He held the first game, then had a break opportunity at 1-0 Sinner serving. Then in the 2-1 game, Aliassime had 3 break points on the Sinner serve. And on one of them, he hit a running forehand very deep. The ball got behind Jannik, and he was able to manipulate this ball and turn this defensive backhand into a short cross-court angle winner. A spectacular way to say break point, but Aliassime was in this fourth set. He was very close to going up a break. Doesn't mean that he would have won the fourth set, but nevertheless, he was putting Jannik Sinner under a lot of pressure. Now, after failing to convert these breakpoint chances, Aliassime lost his serve, and Sinner ended up holding serve for the rest of that fourth set and won it 6-4. So on paper, this might look like a straightforward four-set victory for Jannik, but I do think this was a very complicated match. This leads me now into previewing the final against Alcaraz. So prior to the tournament starting, I had picked Alcaraz for a couple of reasons. First of all, we have to remember what happened in Cincinnati. The weather was absolutely insane here in the United States. And Jannik Sinner did have a high fever during this final, and that's why he retired. So he wasn't necessarily affected by the heat. And I don't see any evidence that Jannik Sinner cannot find his best tennis in very hot conditions. However, I do believe that if the match gets extended to 5 sets, the advantage is for Alcaraz. So prior to the US Open starting, I checked the weather forecast and I thought it was going to be hot, but I did think that the conditions are quite comfortable in New York. So you can throw that theory out the window. I don't think it's going to matter. My second reason for picking Alcaraz over Sinner was the improved serve from Alcaraz. He has been serving better than he has ever before in his career. And Jannik Sinner, especially during the tournament in Cincinnati, was struggling with his first serve percentage. Now, after Sinner served incredibly well in the match against Bublik and in the match against Musetti, I actually regretted picking Alcaraz because I thought the chances were going to be lower. However, after seeing this match against Auger Aliassime, the Jannik Sinner first serve percentage is the only small weakness that Jannik Sinner has in his game. If Carlos Alcaraz in the final continues to serve like he has been, he's going to give himself chances to disrupt the Alcaraz rhythm. Because here's the thing about the Alcaraz game, and something that was difficult for him in Wimbledon, where Jannik played well, is that Carlos Alcaraz will not be able to utilize his versatility unless he's in control of the match. So if Jannik Sinner is in control of the rallies, it's going to be very difficult for Carlos to utilize his versatility. It includes everything: drop shots, coming to the net, changing up the height of the ball. It's going to be far easier to utilize this versatility if Carlos Alcaraz is in control of the rallies. And how is he going to be able to control the rallies? Well, that's only if his first serve percentage is high. And it has been high throughout this tournament, and I expect it to be high in the final. Jannik Sinner's first serve percentage, on the other hand, is a big question mark. If he comes out serving well, I do think he's going to be the favorite to win this match. If Alcaraz is missing a lot of first serves, Jannik Sinner is absolutely lethal on the second serve return. He is the best returner in the world in general, but especially on second serves. So if you're missing a lot of first serves, your chances are very low against Jannik Sinner. Jannik Sinner also needs to have a high first serve percentage, because if he doesn't, this will give Carlos a lot of opportunities to break serve. So just like any match between these two guys, it's a 50-50 match. This rivalry is not as surface dependent as people make it out to be. The only exception possibly to this could be indoor hard court. We have to see once they play more matches on that surface. Just like in many of the other matches these two guys have played against each other, it's going to come down to a few important points here and there. I do not believe that it will be a blowout. I believe that most of the matches Sinner and Alcaraz play against each other are going to be tight matches. Look, when it comes to my predictions at these Grand Slam tournaments, I never change my mind. What would be the point of predicting something and then changing your mind a few days later? Makes no sense. However, if I had to pick someone based on how they performed in this tournament, I would still pick Carlos Alcaraz because of the way he has served throughout this tournament. He's been more solid. Yes, you can make an argument that Alcaraz had the easier draw, but then again, Alcaraz faced Djokovic in the semifinals, the third best player in the world. So, based on the serve performance from Alcaraz and based on the serve struggles from Sinner in some of the matches, I'm still leaning a little bit towards Alcaraz in this US Open final.